Welcome to Night Talk.
Okay, everybody. Hi. How are you guys all doing tonight? This is the Reverend Jason McIntosh.
How you doing? You get the joy of two scruffy-looking guys for a while.
Yeah, I look scruffier because I just had bypass surgery and I'm not supposed to take a shower until tomorrow afternoon. And I'll tell you what, you don't want to be sitting by me. But
No,
anyway,
you really don't, but I'm stuck here.
we're going to be talking about tarot cards. And Jason, we picked out 5 cards, and I'm going to let Jason tell you what they are and describe all kinds of things about them. Now, on the bottom left-hand screen, if you have any questions for Jason, text your question to that phone number. Okay? After we get done answering the questions that have been texted in, then if you want a live tarot card reading, text your name, your phone number, and live, okay? And when we get to that point, we will start calling you and doing a live reading over the internet for you, okay? So let's move on, okay? I'm going to pull up the tarot cards and Jason will take over from there.
So we've picked a few that, thanks to Hollywood, get kind of a bad rap and are pretty misunderstood. The first of which is the death card. Oftentimes in movies you see it coming up and they'll be talking, oh, there's, something's going to kill you in such amount of time, or there's going to be a death in the family, or whatever. And it's part of their storytelling, it's part of their stuff. But the death card doesn't necessarily refer to physical death. It can refer to the death of a situation. It can refer to the death of a relationship, or predominantly just a significant change in life.
Or the ending of a job.
Right. It can be the ending of a job. It could be the ending of a snowstorm if you're doing a reading about the weather. Oh, hey, what's going to go on? It's not a card to ever be afraid of when it comes up. It doesn't stand for anything that's like some big boogeyman hovering over your shoulder. It's not the Grim Reaper coming to yank your soul out and stuff it in a toaster. The next card that we have, we'll just click up here, the Devil. Now, another one that gets a bad rap. Remember that Christian iconography has had an influence on tarot throughout the years, going all the way back to the Dark Ages. The Devil is a card not symbolizing the force of evil per se, but symbolizing our own addictions, our attachments to the negative things in our lives, being think of it as being held in chains by our bad decisions and our own things that we're not willing to let go of. A lot of times this card will come up and when people are talking about relationships, or when people are talking about trying to find a way to change their life. And it usually, when I've seen it, it'll come up in the past sections of the reading. And it's a matter of saying, hey, look, this is representing things that are holding you back from making the changes you want to make, from taking your life in the directions you want to take. Again, Hollywood will use this. You'll see it in movies, and then all of a sudden, sure enough, a demon shows up and comes popping out of somebody and tries to rip people to shreds. And that's all fine for slasher flicks and jump you out of your seat movies. But in real life, it just doesn't work that way. All right, so the next one, the Fool. People will see this in readings and think that it's literally referring to them as being an idiot of some sort. No. This is representative of our inner child, our carefree nature that letting go of things, being willing to live on life's edge and take chances. And oftentimes it's a warning saying, hey, maybe you're taking too many chances. But it doesn't refer to the person themselves as being a fool or an idiot in every aspect of life. Sometimes you need to be more of a fool. You need to have a little bit more childlike wonder in your life. Sometimes it's saying, hey, you're being too much the fool. You need to slow down. Okay, then we have the Hangman. I don't know why people get scared of this one. It oftentimes brings up ideas of crucifixion, or specifically it denotes the story of Odin hanging himself on Yggdrasil, the tree of life in Norse mythology, to gain knowledge. And the Hangman is about finding that inner knowledge and connecting with wisdom. It has nothing to do, again, with something bad going to happen to you, or you're going to get stuck up in a tree, or any of those things that people sometimes just misconceive just based on the art. This is a card of wisdom and attaining the wisdom. And depending upon what deck you're using, the art will show that more, like this one does. Some of them, the art's kind of hard to interpret. We'll talk more about different tarot decks later. Then our last one that we're going to, I think it was just those that we...
Yeah, just five of them.
Last one that we're going to talk about directly that is often misconstrued and people get worried about in readings is the Tower. Now, obviously, this brings up images of the Tower of Babel, being destroyed by divine power, symbolizing man's pride, trying to reach up to the heavens, and getting struck down for it. The card itself does not denote that divine fire is going to come out of the sky and burn your house down. What it means is, let's see, what's the best way to put it? The best way to put it is that when this card comes up, it's saying, hey, look, you're on a path that can really lead you to some ruin. All right, whether it's you're experimenting with drugs, I think we all know enough stories on that to say that can lead us down a dark path. Or if you're rushing things in a relationship with someone that you don't know enough about, that can be pretty rocky too. It's not going to wind up with meteorites falling out of the sky and you wind up at the bottom of a crater somewhere like a flattened Wile E. Coyote. It just is a warning of, hey, slow down.
What about, would it also be like a warning if you're hanging around with some wrong people?
Yeah, that's a perfect example of a decision in life that can lead you to ruin. You can be in with, and maybe you think they're your friends, and then, oh, hey, let's all go do this and get high. Or, hey, you know what? Let's go make fun of this bum down here. And it turns out that the homeless guy on the corner happens to have a gun and starts shooting back at you. Bad decision. Normally, it's a warning to think about what you're doing and the consequences of those actions, what can happen based on those.
That it?
Yep, that's it. Those are those cards that we wanted to talk about that are usually misconstrued. Now, we do have one question up here already that came in from Tommy. Thank you for getting us started with that, Tommy. He asks, how accurate are most tarot card readers as future readings are done? When you're dealing with the future side of any reading, you have to remember that the future is always in motion. It's not something set in stone. So if you follow the path that you're still following, the things that are predicted in there are very likely to come true. Many of the things that are predicted in the future parts of any reading are warnings, saying, hey, look, if you go this way, this and this are going to happen. And some of them may be good, some of them may be bad. But you're going to make decisions based on the information that you got in a reading. Those decisions are going to change your future. It may be in minor ways, it may be in major ways. A case in point, I did a reading for a friend of mine down in Texarkana, and she had some questions about where she was in life, and the reading essentially said, hey, look, you need to spend some more time focusing on taking care of yourself, and these relationship questions are going to sort themselves out. As she focused more on taking care of herself and looking at, the good and the bad influences in her life, she realized that certain relationship she was in, she needed to get out of. And then another relationship cropped up that she thought was just a friend that wound up being a very good relationship for her. They're actually, let's see, it's been about 8 months or so. They're very happy, doing a lot of things together, and she's in a lot better place. Not because I did anything special with the cards, but because she listened to the advice given through the reading and took stock of her life. That's the primary tool that the tarot is. It is, I'd say, probably best used as a counseling method, as a way of sitting down and looking at things. Oftentimes, when I'm doing a reading, something may come up in the middle of it that I'm saying, well, in this part of your life or past, do you have somebody that's this kind of an influence that this card represents, whether it's positive or negative in the particular card? If you do, you need to look at that influence and just see how it is affecting your life. Most of the things that come into play with the cards are, well, to use Carl Jung's terms, archetypes, psychological archetypes, things that we connect to. Most of the time, the person already knows the answers they need. They just need to hear it from a source that isn't a part of their daily life. Very much psychology and mysticism coming together in the same place. Do you have any questions, Dave?
I don't have any questions quite yet. Hey, if any of you guys have any questions, you could either type them in there on Facebook or text them in on that phone number there. It's much easier for us to read your questions if you text them to that phone number. The phone number is 402-370-8770. Or if you want us to give you a call and do a live tarot reading for you, just text your name and live, and then we'll call you right away.
Or even if you have a question that you think is a little more complex than you can text to, go ahead and do that live. We'll give you a call up and we can talk to you.
Yeah. How many cards are there in a tarot deck?
Well, there are 78 cards in a tarot deck. As you can see, they're usually a bit bigger than your standard playing cards. It's a thicker deck. The reason it's thicker is that it has the same 4 suits you would think of in your playing cards, although they have different names than you do in your playing cards. But each of those suits, instead of having 13, has 14. There's an extra face card, if you want to think of it that way. And then they have what are called trump cards, which deal with higher archetypes. Things that we already talked about, like the Hangman and Death, the Tower. There's a number of others dealing with things like your High Priest or your High Priestess, Hermits, Magician. You know, all of these things that play large roles in our collective psychological makeup. You know, there was someone who had made a comment to you about my use of the term reverend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As a Wiccan, it is not normally a title that we use. In most covens or circles where you have a group dynamic, you'll hear terms like elder or sage or high priest or sometimes just father or brother in referring to a male that's a member of the clergy. As a solitary Wiccan, which means I don't practice with a group, I'm on my own, and I have been, since I was 16. I'm not going to do the math and tell you how many years that is, but it's a long time. A lot of what I do, I wind up interacting with people of other faiths, so whether they're Christian or Muslim or Jewish. I dealt with a couple of Hindus, one Buddhist one time, and I found that in my practice that using a more generic term that is not religious specific just puts people more at their ease. So I use the term reverend. It's just simply a denotation that I'm clergy. And to remind people that when you talk to me, you're talking to a member of the clergy. Anything you say is protected by law. Anything you say is literally between you, me, and the divine. goes nowhere else. You have all the same rights talking to me as you would going to talk to a Catholic priest or a Methodist minister. You know, those same protections and counseling.
Yeah. Yeah, and what kind of, how would I put this, ceremonies do you perform? You know, like weddings and...
I can perform weddings legally. I can do funerals. I do suicide counseling. I can do marriage counseling, family counseling. Of course, one of the things that I've done more often than others has been house blessings. Probably many people are familiar with the basic process of taking sage and burning it and going around throughout the house to drive out negative energy. Well, then you turn around and you replace that negative energy with positive energy. That's the blessing part. Also can do, the Christian term would be baptism. We use the term wickening. Essentially a naming ceremony where you have people there that are taking responsibility for the spiritual guidance of the child. The Christians use the term Godfather and Godmother, I believe are the...
Yeah.
Right. In Wiccan circles, will often use the term Godfather and Goddess Mother, each representing the male and female aspect of divinity that we believe in. We also, throughout the year, we have the changing of the seasons. There are 8 holy days in the Wiccan faith that come from the older European pagan traditions, the Celts and the Norse. So you'll have your equinoxes and solstices, and then you'll have your days that are basically halfway between them. Big one that people probably know about is Halloween.
Yeah.
We use the old Celtic term Samhain, which looks like it's spelled Samhain. Don't worry if you don't pronounce it right. No one's going to get bent out of shape unless they're, drunk or just a snot. But a lot of things that we do are the same things that are done in every other religion. We pray. We help people. We take the time to look at our lives and figure out, are we living morally? Let's see. Oh, yeah, we also... grip our steering wheels tightly when it's icy and say, please don't let me die, please don't let me die. Just like any other religion.
Yeah.
So,
Jason, he's a minister in his religion, and a lot of you guys don't know it, but I'm also a minister. I'm a minister in the Christian religion. Okay? I can do weddings, funerals, you name it, I can do it,
Mm-hmm.
But
now, are you attached to any particular denomination?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm a firm believer in God and Jesus and, a lot of the stuff that some churches preach. When you really study the church and everything else, you finally start to realize and learn that a lot of the stuff some of the churches tell you is off ballpark. It's just wrong. But anyway, a lot of you guys have heard that I had a quadruple bypass. I had four bypasses at one time. And I'll tell you what, my chest hurts like GLL. And I found out something that I didn't know, is that when they do a bypass on you, they stop your heart. You literally die.
So they've got a machine pumping the blood?
Yeah, they got a machine that pumps the blood through your body, but your heart stops. And during that surgery, I heard a voice. It was a deep voice. It was kind of a soft, soothing voice.
Sorry.
And all it said was, "I'm here with you." It was really weird. Then when I woke up in my hospital room, a nurse came in. And she was dressed like the old-time nurses back in the late 50s, early 60s, and she had a nice little cap on with the little gown and apron-like thing on. And She walked up to me, she put her hand on my chest, and she says, "I'm here to help you." And she smiled at me, and she turned around and walked out of the room. And I saw her quite a few times while I was in the hospital. And to make a long story short, just before I got out of there, I told this nurse about this nurse that kept coming in to see me. And I told her her name. And I told her what she looked like. Well, the woman died decades ago. But her daughter and her granddaughter worked at the hospital I was in. She ran off and she brought them both back. And I told them the description of this woman, the color of her hair, eyes, facial structure, everything. And this nurse, one of them, ran out of the room again, and she came back in, and she handed me a picture. Oh, I don't have it on here. She handed me a picture of a nurse. She goes, "Was it this woman?" I said, "Yeah." It was her mother. It was her mother died 10 years after she was born. And the other nurse, it was her grandmother. So I had the daughter and granddaughter there with me. And it was pretty freaky. But anyway, I want to thank you all for coming. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Unfortunately, nobody has any questions. They didn't text anything in, so we're going to get out of here. I'm going to go find me something to drink and watch a little bit of TV. So you guys, thanks for coming. And
thanks for having me, and thanks to all y'all who stopped to watch. And if you do have any follow-up questions, you can always send them to Dave, and he can get me on another time to answer them.
Yeah. I mean, Jason's not far away, believe me. And what else did I want? Oh, yeah. And I want to thank all the people that prayed for me when I went into the hospital. I really appreciate it because it means a lot to me. And I'm not used to things like that happening, So you guys have a good night. Stay out of trouble. And, I'll try, but I'm not very good at it. So you all have a good night.
You're going to come back and see us, aren't you? You better be. We need you. We got to have you. We depend on you. Come on back and see us. The feed has ended. Sleep well.